Alright guys, it's Hank here. I'm going to try some experimental stuff with Fallout 4 Edit. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work, but just because I don't see a reason why it wouldn't work doesn't mean it will work. And what I intend to do is create a series of master file dependencies, just like you would do with armor keywords and Armorsmith Extended and Fallout 4, for any typical mod. Like, for example, with, let's just see what would have, like this would have a couple of master file dependencies. You would have the Expeditionary Suit, and then Armorsmith keywords, and then Fallout 4.esm, and basically for those that don't know, armor keywords is the reference that puts it at the proper workbench. So typically in the game, you've got the chemistry workbench, you've got the weapons workbench, where you'll switch off the mods for your guns, and you've got your armor workbench, where you'll build the mods for your armor, and then you've got your power armor station. Whereas with a workshop, I don't know if it's workshop framework or one of the other sort of settlement expansions, could be workshop rearranged, that brings in a lot more workbenches. So let's see. Workbenches like, let's see, armor keywords. Let's see if we can find the actual file dependencies here. See, AEC stands for the Armorsmith Workbench. So the Armorsmith Workbench is coded COBJ. WSE would stand for, I believe, an ammo workbench. CO is going to be like the paint mixing station. Let's see if we can find out what else we got here. We got probably a decal station, which is this one right here. What I'm looking for is explosives workbench. So a whole shit ton of color swaps, paints. Let's see. I don't think it would be under INNR, but we'll just take a look. I've actually got a here we go, armor station keywords. So we've got the explosives. This is the keyword that'll set it up at the Armorsmith bench. This would set it up, at the explosives weapon, the explosives bench. This would be the ammo bench. This would be the weaponsmith bench. This would be the Armorsmith bench. And then all the standard stuff should be in Fallout 4 .esm. Let's see. And where did we go to find that? It was under form ID list. So Let's see. I'm wasting a little bit of time here explaining kind of what I intend to do. Even though I don't think it's really necessary to go through it this way. Because this is basically showing us everything. Maybe it's got the keywords at the bottom. It's never easy, is it? Alright, to hell with it. I think I actually created a file that's going to show me what I need. Let's see here. Yeah, the workbench keywords. And this would be under AWKCR, which is I think, I forget whose mod this is that does all the Armorsmith, all the workbench keywords. I should remember who does that, but I don't really recall right at the moment. Alright, and what I'm looking for right now kind of is the chemistry, what would be under chemistry workbenches. Although ultimately it's not really important right at this juncture, but it is important for insofar as creating the master file dependencies that are going to be needed later on. So let's kind of open up what I've already been playing with. And the reason that I'm kind of making this is because if I'm doing something incredibly friggin' stupid, which is possible because this is experimental to me, and a more experienced modder like DT Koichi or Greslin would quickly point out what a moron that I am. Like for this, for example, this is the like I've swapped out in the game the standard rocket launcher because it's way too heavy and the standard rockets just are friggin' useless as shit because they're too heavy and it makes no sense. So I'm basically using this quad rocket launcher that comes with like a clip of missiles and reduce the ammo weight on it. So each missile weighs only like 3.5 pounds as opposed to 7. So it makes it a more practical thing to carry, and it's not classified as a heavy weapon, so I can actually carry it around with me when even though I'm not a power armor based character. So I've already made modifications here, but the only modifications that I've made have been in some tagging and in weight changes and value changes. Like for example, I brought the weight of the mini nuke down just in its plain form to 6 pounds instead of 12, which makes it a little bit more viable to carry just a little small nuke. Because about, I always think of things in terms of weights of a bag of sugar, like a 5-pound bag of sugar. Am I going to stuff what's equivalent to, over two full bags of sugar and then some for one mini nuke? whereas I'm looking at more at 6 pounds, just a little bit over 1 full bag of sugar. And I know that's a little bit on the light side, not ultra real, not to the letter of the law super realistic. If I was going for super realism, I might bump it up to 8. But since it just is the ammo and not the full remote explosive that it's attached to, so I've got my nuke here. No, I don't want to modify anything just yet. It's actually going to be in constructible object, perhaps? No. I mean, there's a couple of places. There's the ChemLab workbench keyword. The created object. So we're kind of just going through this together. It would probably be the projectile. That would show my weight. You know, and I go through this before, and then I know what the hell I'm doing, and then I go back and look at it later, and I can't remember exactly where I found everything. There it is, weight, 12 pounds. So I'm going to bring that down to 8. Yes, I'm absolutely sure I don't want a 12-pound mini nuke. So fully constructed, it'll be 8. Same thing with the live. Fully constructed, it's going to be 8 pounds. And the token will be 8 as well. The C4, instead of 2 pounds, I'm going to bring that down. But I'm going to think about that a little bit more. That's not what I'm here today to do. I'm not here to modify weights so much because I really kind of want to give it some thought. C4 is I mean, for a lightweight explosive, you can get a hell of a fucking big bang. But what we're focusing on is the actual explosions. And how I'm going to tie that into a master file dependency. That being Better Explosives Redo. Because Better Explosives Redo, look at all the changes in explosion that you get as compared to Fallout 4.esm. So just kind of as a point of reference, I like to use is one would be the Molotov as a point of reference, because Z did a great job in changing how that really works, setting enemies on fire, creating a fear effect, changing the damage. See, the Molotov child actor force is what I'm going to be interested in adding to the remote explosive, the IED. Because basically what I want, I think, to do is I'm going to up the damage on the IED to make it more in line with the lethality of Better Locational Damage, Better Explosives Redo. So you can see where Z has made these basic changes, but what hasn't existed before and why I have to use, or I believe I have to use, Better Explosives Redo as my master file dependency is because it creates this new keyword here. Explosion 4D01A 213. So in here it should have Molotov child actor force here, which is this. Creating a hazard, a radius, and a force effect all of its own. There is no model that's going to be attached to it, which is convenient. And this is the form ID. So what I'm going to do is just copy this. And I just double-clicked right, and I'm just going to highlight and Control-C to copy that. And then what I'm going to do is go down to remote explosives, and I'm going to add a master. And the first master I'm going to add is the armor keywords. And you only want to add one master at a time. And then save it. And then what you want to do, and this is the experimental stage that I'm in right now. The second master I'm going to add is going to be the actual Better Explosives Redo. And that's why I have, if you're going to have master file dependencies, they have to be higher in the load order list. There's no other way that that's going to work. So Better Explosives Redo is going to be the master that I'm going to attach to it. And then I'm going to save. And then I'm going to sort the masters to match the current load order. And so when I look at my file header, I've got Fallout 4, which it's attached to, armor keywords, which it's attached to. It's going to put it in the appropriate workbench that I'm going to want. And then Better Explosives Redo, which should be able to pull the keywords to modify the explosions in the way that I hope that it will work. Like I say, this is experimental here, totally. So what I want to do is I want to take a look at my IED explosion, and I want to make it better than what it is. And I want to do more than just modify the damage, because 160 is way too low. If you want to base it off of what you would be looking at in Better Explosives Redo, like a basic frag grenade, for example. Let's just look at what a frag grenade explosion would be. Right here. And Better Explosives Redo. 499 is the base damage on that. That's unmodified by any kind of increase in demolitions expert. Inner radius 250, 550 with a force of 300. So that's what Z has brought us. So I'm going to, again, I'm taking a look at the Molotov child actor force, because what I want my IED to do is explode and potentially light targets on fire. So it's going to be placed object is where I'm going to put it, I believe. Let's take a look at how Molotov is done. It too is a placed object explosion. So I'm going to do the same thing. And then since I've already copied, I'm just going to hit Control V so I don't have to look it up. And what I think that should probably do, you know, given its file dependency, is give me kind of like that fire effect. The same type of fire effect that happens with the Molotov. I'm going to boost the damage. Let's see, the last one was $4.99 just for a frag grenade. And it's not child explosion, it's the primary. I think it was $4.99. Right, $4.99. So let's do $4.99 the same, because the force is going to be higher and the radiuses are going to be more powerful. And I'm going to leave the inner and outer radius the same. But in addition to being able to set things on fire, I'm also going to want to have a shrapnel effect. So I want to, like a maybe grenade shell. Let's see if it's got a spawn projectile. Nope. Let's take a look. I know that the artillery strike does have one, but I don't want that much shrapnel. Or maybe it doesn't. The Minuteman artillery actor force. So it does have a placed object and explosion value here. But I was fairly certain that there was explosions that did have those secondary fragmentation effects. Let's take a look at heavy. Yeah, here we go. It does spawn projectiles. The medium shrapnel projectile child. Shrapnel projectile of so that's going to be under projectiles. Or since it's in Fallout 4.esm and it hasn't changed here in Better Explosives Redo, it's actually going to be up here in my Fallout 4.esm under projectiles. And if things were organized we'll just make it organized by alphabet by clicking their editor ID. And we should have, we're in explosion right now, we should be in projectile. Oops. I thought that that would arrange it by alphabet, but it did not. Let's see. I don't know, I'll just search for it. And if there's a way to organize by alphabetizing in Fallout 4 edit, anybody knows, you could leave me a comment on that. So these are all the shrapnel, or like the small shrapnel projectile child I think would be perfect, probably. Unless it's too small, because it's saying, you know, like 10 millimeter is the default weapon source for this, so it might be too small. It's got impact force. Let's try and find something a little bit more powerful. And I'll go back and open my Better Explosives redo, because that again is my baseline. And heavy explosion, heavy projectile explosion was my base for that. Medium shrapnel projectile child right here. So it's going to shoot shrapnel out to a range of 450 with a speed of 5,000. A beam type that's going to pass through transparent, which makes perfect sense for the IED, which basically means it's going to rip through furniture, tables, shit like that. It's going to have a fast duration, not a whole lot of impact force. It incorporates a explosion, a subset explosion into it. So it's actually going to, within this, it's going to have a frag grenade explosion, or child explosion rather. So I'm gonna double click this and copy. And this is what I'm gonna attach to the IED for now. With the spawn projectile. And we're going to look at child grenade actor force. Which would be an explosion. So I'm still in projectile. I need to look at explosion. Let's see what happens if I type in just, yeah, here we go, frag grenade child explosion. So Better Explosive Redo has modified that. And in what way? It's increased the damage to 400. So I'm adding basically I'm adding a loud shrapnel effect that's going to add 400 damage to it. with an inner radius of 30, an outer radius of 50, and a force of 101. So very, very close to the IED blast. It's going to deliver an additional 400 damage on top of the 499 base that's unmodified by demolitions expert. So that if you're standing within lower than 30, I forget precisely what a foundation unit is. I think a foundation unit is just a 4x4. So this is going to be I'm not quite sure if there's a one-to-one comparison on that. If anybody knew that, that would be a nice thing to know as well. How distances compare looking at foundation units, so we can kind of get a good idea ahead of time what the blast radius are going to be. So just because we've added just those two simple effects, the Molotov child actor force, it's going to light things on fire out to a certain distance, and it's going to create a secondary shrapnel projectile within the inner radius of 30, 50. That's going to add an additional 400 damage on top of this base. And then everything outside clearly is going to go all the way out to the ultimate IS radius. And how far the Molotov child actor force, how far that fire effect is going to go is going to be right here. To 320. So it's going to create a Molotov fire hazard, which should be in here somewhere. And this is like adding the enchantment. So you can see how modifying explosives gets really deep when you have to kind of break apart all these different trees and understand where all the dependencies are. So the FX enchant would be, I think, probably under magic effect or spell. What's enchant? That's spell. That's magic. There we go. Here's the enchantment effects. So here would be the FX enchant fire hit Molotov. So this again is included in the child actor force that we've added as a secondary effect to the IED, with a magnitude of 4, a duration that lasts, I'm going to have to assume, 17 seconds. Giving the visualization that it's lit the targets on fire. So we've got 1 magnitude 8, 1 magnitude 12. I suspect that that has probably something to do with So we have effect, base effect 1, under these conditions, I suspect. I know that Fallout 4 Edit, it runs the script all the way through as if it's I believe if it's an and/or command. So it's going to run this first, and if it doesn't apply, then it's going to go or this, and then if it doesn't apply, then it's going to go or that, or it's going to run and until all the conditions are met. So I suppose the true nuance, the every little last detail of it is really not that important, because I already am very familiar with how the Molotov effect works. I'm satisfied that it's that same effect that I want to see from the IED explosion. Lighting on fire and giving us shrapnel projectiles on the inside. Very loud, of course. Keep the stagger at medium. And I think what I'm going to do is change from frag grenade explosion to some other type of explosion as the model. I would greatly appreciate it if, before I mess around with the model, what does MODT texture file hashes refer to? Is that going to be like color modifications or some specific reference tied to this NIF file? Because that's going to be critical for me to know. And I don't read, I just don't know Fallout, and this looks to me, I guess, to be hexadecimal, but I'm not sure. So if anybody knows that off the top of their head, if this is dependent in some way. So is it basically giving a size reference, a color reference? What is this texture file hash referring to? And does it have to specifically refer to this NIF file? Or if I want to change the NIF file to a different type of explosion, say I want, let's use a small artillery strike. I'm going to use artillery strike might be too big. Let's frag grenade is what we're already using. Grenade shell, I'm not sure exactly how big that is or what that refers to. I'm trying to think of what would be a good middle of the road, slightly smaller than a car, bigger than a grenade. But fuck it, we'll just go with just an artillery strike explosion. Fuck it. Like, it might be craziness, but why the fuck not? But I need to know, basically, do I need to copy this hash if I'm going to use that NIF file? Or am I completely friggin' uncharted territory? And am I going to cause a crash or something? Like right now, I'm almost kind of tempted until I get some feedback not to even fuck with it. Because if I'm going to break it, I kind of want to know where I've broken it. So I'm right at the moment, I'm only going to make a couple of adjustments until, I guess first and foremost, to find out whether or not the chain of master file dependencies is going to work properly. Boom, boom, boom. And if that works, well, fuck it. I mean, that's good. And the IED, all we've modified is basically bringing in the dependencies from Better Explosives Redo here and here and modifying a little bit of the damage. So I guess before we get to screwing around with the NIF files, we'll see. We'll play test this and see if it works. And hopefully, no clue what the texture hash is. Can't find any documentation on a creation kit wiki for it. Yeah, I know we're way outside of creation kit. In Fallout 4 edit. Like, I think we're totally, as far as I know, we're in totally uncharted territory using Fallout 4 edit to build explosives this way. Definitely appreciate the lookup though, CB, most definitely. You're on my secondary screen, so it's kind of tough for me to see. I think it's CB. So I guess we'll get in there and test it. And see what kind of feedback we get back maybe tomorrow. Alright, it's been Hank. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. And if I have some kind of complete crash, well, I'll know the layered dependencies don't work and I'll be able to holler that out. Catch you guys later.